Aston Martin stunned the paddock with its promising pace during winter testing, which was confirmed in the Bahrain Grand Prix as Fernando Alonso scored a podium on his first race for the Silverstone-based team. But it's what Aston Martin will be able to do later on this season that should scare Red Bull, at least according to Alonso, with the Spaniard issuing a dire warning to the reigning champions. "We're just getting started," is the message Alonso was sending to Red Bull over the past few days, indicating that Aston Martin haven't shown their full hand yet and that they may fight for wins sooner than anyone expected. So what secret weapon does Aston Martin have up its sleeve, and should Max Verstappen be worried that his third title won't be a walk in the park as everyone predicted? Well, let's take a look. Aston Martin, which placed 7th in last year's season's Constructors' Championship, demonstrated in the season's opening race at Sakir that it has completely closed the gap from the midfield to the leaders, and that it can legitimately contend with Mercedes and Ferrari at the front. And while Alonso was curious to see if Aston's headline-grabbing form carries over to Saudi Arabia and Australia, he said he was confident his new team could maintain development throughout the year because it started with what he called a basic car for Bahrain. Sure, we need to wait for Jeddah, Australia, very different tracks, so I'm curious to see if we can keep this form in different circuits, Alonso said. But on the other hand, I think the car that we have now is just a very basic car that we launched, and we start the season with this completely new concept. I think there is a lot more to come in terms of development with this project, so I'm optimistic for that. After achieving what technical director Dan Fallows called aggressive aero targets over the winter, team principal Mike Crack felt confident that his squad had a solid foundation upon which to build. Aston Martin made progress through 2022, but because it got off to a slow start, its growth trajectory went somewhat unnoticed. In the end, it came close to surpassing Alfa Romeo in the constructors' standings. Last year, we managed to get better over the season, but we saw also how hard it is. Because of the intensity that you have with racing and cost cap, you're really tight, Crack said. You need to start with a good baseline because you cannot afford to spend what you have available just on developing. This is also why we went aggressive in the targets that we had for the car. Obviously, it's not always easy to achieve, but our team has managed great things there. It's much easier to develop from this base than to develop from the base that we had last year. We have our development plan in place, but the others have a plan in place as well. It could well be that if you develop at the same rate, you stay where you are. So let's see where we get to. The team has received praise from the entire field for how much their outright pace has improved over the winter, with Alonso now driving a car that may be able to compete for podiums on a regular basis. It does bring to mind the days where the team was still known as Force India. Back in 2014, the team were the surprise package at the opening race of the season, where the pair of Nico Hülkenberg and Sergio Perez scored a combined points total of 9. It marked the continuation of steady progress for the Silverstone-based team, resulting in back-to-back P4 finishes in 2016 and 2017. But their progress came to a swift stop when owner Vijay Mallya was accused of fraud and defaulting on loans. Unable to keep the team afloat, Mallya was forced to sell it, and he did so to Lawrence Stroll, with the team rebranded to Racing Point and then later on to Aston Martin. Now it's Aston Martin's turn to shock, and their podium finish in Bahrain appears to be more than just a surprise outcome. It may also be a sign of things to come. Some have even gone so far as to say that they might be able to take some wins away from Red Bull this season. But Joe Ramirez, who was with McLaren throughout their dominant years in the 1980s and saw the infamous Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna rivalry unfold from within, went further and compared Alonso's situation to that of four-time world champion Prost, who came out of retirement and won his 4th crown with Williams age 41, the same age that Alonso is now. Having shown no signs of slowing down, Ramirez thinks the Spaniard is in fact better than ever. When asked by Spanish media if a third Alonso title is possible, Ramirez said, "I wish. If Aston Martin continues in this vein and he holds on for 2 or 3 more years, he can do it." The team is on the right track. Red Bull and especially Helmut Marko criticised them for copying them, but that's the way F1 has been going for a long time. Besides, Alonso is at a great age. When Alain Prost retired, he was 41 years old and in his prime. I was at his side and I could see it. The same thing is happening to Alonso. He is driving better than ever. Experience counts more than age. The moves Alonso made on Lewis Hamilton, George Russell and Carlos Sainz, combined with a retirement for Charles Leclerc in Bahrain, led him to his podium finish at the weekend. And the pace within the AMR 23 was such that they have put themselves firmly in the conversation to be the best of the rest behind the dominant Red Bull team. Despite the fact that Red Bull Bull currently appears to be out of reach for the rest of the field after the advantage on display in Bahrain, Ramirez thinks that an Aston Martin and Alonso race victory this season is not out of the question. The way things are looking, I think they can do it. There will be a race that is not so much in Red Bull's favour, that it rains or there are special circumstances. And then they can take the opportunity because Fernando's experience will make the difference. Dan Fallows, who transitioned from Red Bull Aero Chief to Aston Martin Technical Director, was one of the key hires during the team's major recruitment drive, as they look to push themselves to the top of the Formula One pecking order. But while Aston Martin has been making the kind of appointments needed to become a threat at the front in the years to come, few expected them to make such a profound jump. A closer look at the car and you can see why their performance has improved so much. It really does look like a Red Bull with a different livery, and it has not gone unnoticed. Red Bull team boss Christian Horner made light of the similarity by saying he was glad to see the old car performing so well, and Perez quipped that 3 Red Bull drivers had finished on the podium in Bahrain. Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko joined in the fun as well, joking that Aston Martin's former Red Bull crew obviously have a good memory. However, he later seemed to make the matter more serious when he questioned whether Aston Martin could have built their AMR 23 without having records of their previous car, something that would be highly illegal. However, Marko has since moved to clarify that he did not intend for this to be taken as an accusation against Aston Martin, and that it was simply more playful banter. When questioned by Dutch media about the likelihood that data followed the former Red Bull employees to Aston Martin, Marko responded, "No, not at all. And that's not meant to be an accusation either. Those are just joking remarks. If you look in the field, the Aston Martin is the car most similar to the Red Bull." The joking around at the beginning of the new season may have added some colour and spicy memes to the mix, but quite quickly, with Marko, Horner and Perez all involved, while Aston Martin did not bite back, it started to feel a little unfair on the Silverstone squad. As 2022 marked the beginning of a brand new regulatory era in Formula One, it's only natural that teams would in some way follow the path blazed by the teams who made the best start with these ground effect challenges, and that was Red Bull. And after taking Fallows' move into consideration, it would have seemed rather strange if the AMR 23 had shared very few similarities with the dominant RB18. Red Bull themselves have predicted that more cars would be looking something like theirs or Ferraris in terms of design in F1 in 2023. Those two teams having led the way in 2022, and this indeed has proven true. The addition of Aston Martin to the front of the grid is a welcome one, and if Red Bull continues to dominate up front, then more battles between Mercedes, Ferrari and Aston Martin behind them will really make F1 2023 an exciting season to watch. Of course, everyone will be hoping that predictions of the 2023 season being a walk in the park for the Red Bulls are wrong, but it does seem like a real possibility. But what do you think? Will Fernando Alonso and Aston Martin be the thorn in Red Bull's side this season? Do you think we could see Alonso fight for a 3rd title? We'd love to hear from you in the comment section below. If you're looking for more F1 news, check out our video ranking this season's rookie drivers. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to click the bell button to be notified of future videos.